At the height of World War II, Nazi Germany believed it had a secret spy network operating inside Britain. The Germans received reports about British troop movements. They learned about military preparations. They were given information about Allied plans. And they trusted the man sending it. But there was one problem. The entire spy network was fake. The agents did not exist. The reports were invented. The information was carefully designed to sound believable. And the man behind the entire operation was not a trained intelligence officer. He was a Spanish chicken farmer who had never been a professional spy. His name was Juan Pujol García. But the Nazis knew him by another name. Garbo. And during the most dangerous years of World War II, one man managed to deceive Nazi Germany so completely that he became one of the most important double agents of the entire war. A man who hated war. Juan Pujol García was born in Barcelona, Spain, in 1912. When the Spanish Civil War began in the 1930s, Pujol saw the destruction caused by political extremism and violence. He was not a fanatical supporter of one side. In fact, he became deeply suspicious of both sides. The war left him with a strong belief that extreme ideologies could destroy entire nations. When World War II began in 1939, Pujol wanted nothing to do with another conflict. But he had an unusual idea. He believed he could help defeat Nazi Germany. The problem was that he had no military training. He was not a soldier. He was not a diplomat. He was not a professional intelligence officer. He had no experience in espionage. But he understood something important. People often believe information when it is presented with confidence. So Pujol decided to approach the British. He wanted to work as a spy against Nazi Germany. There was only one problem. The British did not want him. He tried several times to contact British intelligence. But from their perspective, he was simply an unknown Spanish civilian offering his services. There was no reason to trust him. So Pujol decided to take matters into his own hands. If Britain would not accept him as a spy, he would pretend to be one. The fake spy in Lisbon. Pujol traveled to Lisbon, Portugal. During the war, Lisbon was filled with spies, diplomats, refugees, and intelligence agents. It was one of the most important centers of espionage in Europe. Pujol began studying Germany. He read newspapers. He studied maps. He learned about military bases and transportation routes. Then he created a fictional identity. He claimed to be a loyal supporter of Nazi Germany. Eventually, he managed to convince German intelligence that he could work for them. The Germans gave him instructions. They wanted information about Britain. But Pujol was not in Britain. He was still in Portugal. So he created a solution. He began inventing an entire spy network. According to Pujol, he had agents operating throughout Britain. There was a military officer, a businessman, a worker, a sailor, a Welsh nationalist, a man who supposedly worked near British military facilities. None of these people existed. They were all creations of Pujol's imagination. But Pujol understood that a single fictional agent would be suspicious. A large spy network, however, could appear real. Every fictional agent needed a personality, a background, a reason for sending information, and sometimes even personal problems. Pujol created detailed stories about his imaginary agents. He described arguments between them. He explained why some reports were late. He gave excuses for mistakes. He even created situations where agents supposedly disagreed with one another. This made the network appear more authentic. The Germans believed they were dealing with a large organization. In reality, one man was sitting alone and creating everything. The art of making lies believable. Pujol did not simply send random information. That would have been too dangerous. Instead, he mixed small amounts of truth with carefully designed fiction. For example, he might provide information about a real British military unit. But he would add a fictional detail. The real information made the report appear credible. The false information served his larger purpose. Pujol also understood that the best lies were not always completely false. Sometimes, the most effective deception was a small change to the truth. He studied British newspapers and public information. Then he used those sources to create reports that appeared to come from secret agents. The Germans had no idea that much of the information was publicly available. But Pujol was taking a major risk. If German intelligence discovered that he was a fraud, he could be arrested or executed. And if the British discovered that he was pretending to be a spy, they might see him as a dangerous enemy agent. For a while, Pujol was operating alone. Then something unexpected happened. The British finally began to take notice. The British discover Garbo. British intelligence eventually learned about Pujol's activities. They realized that the German intelligence service believed he had a spy network inside Britain. But the British also understood something else. Pujol could be useful. Instead of arresting him, they brought him into the British intelligence system. His new codename became Garbo. The name was inspired by the famous actress Greta Garbo. The British believed Pujol possessed an extraordinary ability to create believable stories. The British discover Garbo. British intelligence eventually learned about Pujol's activities. They realized that the German intelligence service believed he had a spy network inside Britain. But the British also understood something. The Nazis believed that Garbo was one of their most valuable agents. They had no idea that his reports were being used against them. At one point, Pujol was awarded the Iron Cross by Nazi Germany. The British also recognized his work. He received the Member of the Order of the British Empire. The man who had started his espionage career by inventing a fake spy network was now officially honored by both sides. But the difference was enormous. Germany believed it was rewarding a loyal agent. Britain knew it was honoring one of the most successful double agents of the war. #The strange reality behind the legend. What made Pujol so unusual was that he did not fit the traditional image of a spy. He was not a mysterious assassin. He did not sneak through enemy checkpoints with secret documents. He did not spend years hiding behind enemy lines. His weapon was imagination. He created people who did not exist. He gave them jobs. He gave them personalities. He gave them relationships. He gave them reasons for their actions. And then he made an entire intelligence service believe that these imaginary people were real. His success depended on understanding human behavior. He knew that people often trust information more when it contains imperfections. He knew that a believable story does not need to be completely true. It only needs to contain enough truth to make the lie difficult to recognize. #The disappearance of Garbo. When the war ended, Pujol disappeared from public life. He feared that Nazi sympathizers might still want revenge. For years, many people did not know what had happened to him. Eventually, it was discovered that he had moved to Venezuela. He lived quietly for decades. The man who had once created one of the most elaborate fictional spy networks in history lived an ordinary life far away from Europe. For many years, even some people who knew him personally did not understand the full story of his wartime activities. Pujol later returned to Europe and received recognition for his role in the war. But he remained a surprisingly private man. He had spent the most dangerous years of his life pretending to be someone else. And perhaps the most remarkable part of his story was this. The world believed his lies because he made them feel real. ## the man who fooled an intelligence service. Juan Pujol García began World War II as an ordinary Spanish civilian. He had no formal training in espionage. He had no powerful connections. He had no army behind him. At first, even the British refused to take him seriously. So he created a fictional spy network to prove that he could help. That network grew. The Germans believed in it. The British eventually used it.